This week on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast, I'm talking about how to handle stock market corrections. And today I want to talk about one of the biggest problems that I see right now, and that is the problem of complacency. Now, most of you listening, you have enjoyed years of strong growth and gains pretty much across the board. If you go back 5 years and all you did, you just invested in the S&P 500, nothing special, just putting it in a broad index fund in the overall US stock market. If you've done that, you've more than doubled your money over time. In fact, significantly more than doubled your money and that's even including the losses in the bear market we had in 2022 after the Fed started raising interest rates pretty aggressively. So as long as you stayed invested, you didn't sell during that time period, you've made gains over the last 5 years that would normally take you 10 years to achieve. And so the result of that, after years of strong gains, you go back prior to 2020, there was a brief little snap with COVID when COVID first hit. But I find that most people, because it was so short-lived and because I think the last thing on someone's mind was worrying about their portfolio in the spring of 2020 when COVID first hit, it was a unique bear market in that not a lot of people got out of the market. Most of us were just so shell-shocked that it was sort of the last thing on our minds, which was a good thing because I think it prevented a lot of people from selling in what was a really scary time to be invested and with everything else going on. Rewind prior to that, the last big damaging PTSD type bear market was all the way back to 2008, 2009. Most of you listening today, if you're preparing for retirement, you were maybe in your 40s back then. Things look a lot different. You had a totally different timeline for retirement, willing to take on a lot more risk, not as concerned about the big drops in the market because it's like, well, I got time, But as you get closer to retirement, that time fades away. The problem that I've seen is that people have got so used to the fact that the market has been so strong and the stock market gains, as long as you've been invested over about the last, 18 to 20 years, you've done great. People forget that during the global financial crisis, the stock market lost half of its value. Half. So a lot of people have been very reluctant to sell. And many of my clients, this is an ongoing conversation because my own clients, when I recommend that they reduce their position in stocks, I see their allocation is getting out of balance because the stock gains on that side of the ledger have been so strong. They like the nice upward climb of their portfolios, especially the really strong returns of the last couple of years. So why would I want to dampen that growth now? And that's exactly the problem, because even for the clients who take my advice, I get a lot of pushback when I recommend reducing the percentage in stocks, because we want to take some of those eye-popping gains that we've had and move that to something more secure. But the general mindset among investors today is that this growth is going to continue. Now, I think the recent cracks in the market have sort of shown that's a bit of on shaky ground there. But I would say generally that is still the mindset. Many people, many of my own clients are still reluctant to sell. They don't like the risk that comes with owning that much stocks, but they don't want to give up the returns either. And you can't have it both ways. So a lot of times people think what's happened over the last several years, that's just going to continue. And that thinking is dangerous and it's not actually rooted in any sort of reality whatsoever. In fact, when investors think that way on the whole, it's very dangerous because it's exactly that type of irrational exuberance, to quote Alan Greenspan, as he would say, irrational exuberance. That is a tell for a market top, because market cycles, tops, bottoms, and everything in between are really well defined by the emotional patterns or the general sentiment that exist out there. So euphoria, people thinking that everything's just going to keep going up. We've seen a lot of that with some of the riskier assets right now, some of the more overvalued assets. A lot of the big tech names, I would say, fall into that category. Even assets like Bitcoin, everybody just thinks, oh, it's just going to keep going up, up, up. Okay, that's the tell for the top. And I don't know if this current correction is going to last or Maybe it's not just a correction, but it could be the beginning of a deeper bear market where you have a downturn of 20, 25, 30% or more. So here's my message to you if you are anywhere close to retirement or even already retired. If you have allowed complacency to creep into your investment strategy, if you're hearing me talk today and you're like, gosh, yeah, that is me. That is me. I haven't wanted to sell. I want to just keep letting it ride like I'm in Vegas or something. If you've allowed this complacency and a reluctance to sell and rebalance, and that's what now defines your investment strategy, and you have not been disciplined about rebalancing, making sure you have the right mix of stocks, take the opportunity to shake off that complacency and rebalance, because this correction currently is not that bad. Chances are you're probably down a few percentage points. No big deal. You're probably where you were sometime last fall. So by rebalancing, you're helping to lock in the gains over the last, not just the last couple of years, but going back since 2009, basically. And if you're close to retirement, you still have 75%, 80%, 90% in stocks, and you can't afford a 30 to 50% loss, I urge you to take this current correction as a warning shot, shake off the complacency, and get your portfolio allocation in balance. Now, I don't mean to go in the other direction and put it all in cash. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting down, if you're 75, 80% and you're really close to retirement, getting down to a more reasonable level, 60%, 55, 50%. That's the kind of change I'm talking about. So for some of you, it may mean a big move, but I'm not talking about going in the other direction. And of course, you want to consider the tax implications for any of these changes that you would make as well. I know some people are reluctant to sell because they have large gains in taxable accounts. Well, in that case, you better get busy, because you may have to sell gradually over a period of time, and you can't do it all at once like you could if it was in like a Roth or some type of tax deferred account. All right. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Ashley Michike, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.